it's time to get into Blinken, okay? It is time to go into this story about Antony Blinken. He's also one that likes to just smile in your face. This man has got to be some kind of evil too. So Antony Blinken is also giving his farewell addresses. And Antony Blinken has been confronted by multiple people within the last 48 hours about his actions and about his rhetoric. Now, there was something here. I want to bring this up. I want to start with this part of the speech here. This is from Dropside News. In the final week, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken delivered rare and pointed criticism of Israeli policies towards Palestinians. Let's start with this. And by the way, this does not excuse him from a damn thing. Again, why are you saying this now when you're on your way out? So he starts with the criticism of what Israel has done, but people are still going to hold his feet to the fire. Listen to this.
Some of our partners have already expressed their willingness to contribute troops and police for such a mission. But if, and only if, it is agreed that Gaza and the West Bank are reunified under a reformed PA as part of a pathway to an independent Palestinian state. And therein lies the rub. Reaching agreement will require all parties to summon the political will, to make hard decisions, to make hard compromises. Key regional and international actors will need to fully commit to supporting Palestinian-led governance and preventing Hamas's return. The PA will need to carry out swift, far-reaching reform to build more transparent, accountable governance, continuing a process that it began last year. Israel will have to accept reuniting Gaza and the West Bank under the leadership of a reformed PA. And all must embrace a time-bound, conditions-based path toward forming an independent Palestinian state.
So does everybody see what's happening now? And they are basically setting this scene up for Donald Trump, because now they're saying they're getting themselves on record. This is Antony Blinken getting himself on record saying we have to move forward to establish a Palestinian state. So now that'll be him on record, exiting the Biden administration, and then the Trump administration comes in. So then if these things are not accomplished, then everyone's going to be pointing their fingers at Donald Trump. Does everybody see what they're doing? Okay, we're going a little bit more here.
These principles are mutually reinforcing. Time-bound because no one will believe or accept an endless process. Palestinians need and deserve a clear and near horizon for political self-determination. Conditions-based because while Palestinians have a right to self-determination, with that right comes responsibility. No one should expect Israel to accept a Palestinian state that's led by Hamas or other extremists, that's militarized or has independent armed militia, that aligns with Iran or others who reject Israel's right to exist, that educates and preaches rejectionism, or that unreformed becomes a failed state.
So did everyone hear what he just said? So those are a lot of things that a Palestinian state would not be able to do. He talked about what they teach. So the education, he talked about it can't be led by Hamas. So that means there will be intervention there, possibly from the U.S. government. So basically everything that he laid out there, remember, Gaza never had a military. If they establish a Palestinian state, that means that they would lawfully have the right to have a military. That's one of the reasons why Netanyahu doesn't want them to have a state. So when you lay out all of those things, basically they can't mess up in any way, shape, or form. You see all these restrictions that they're putting on them that they're not willing to put on Israel?
Israelis must decide what relationship they want with the Palestinians. That cannot be the illusion that Palestinians will accept being a non-people without national rights. 7 million Israeli Jews and some 5 million Palestinians are rooted in the same land. Neither is going anywhere. Israelis must abandon the myth that they can carry out de facto annexation without cost and consequence to Israel's democracy, to its standing, to its security.
So does everyone hear what's being said now? Now he's being more critical towards Israel. He's saying that they can't just carry out a full annexation, which he knows Israel plans on doing. You see what I mean? So, and they've already started doing, they've ramping up, stealing the land and the home in the West Bank. So they have increased that. He already knows that they're doing those things. So going into Trump's administration, if these things continue to happen, then it will be all fingers pointed at Donald Trump. So it's basically, he's setting this up. Everybody pay attention. And this is not to say, again, if this happens under Donald Trump, you need to come after him as well. Be very clear about that. But what I'm saying is Antony Blinken knows that Israel is already doing these things, and it was happening under Biden's administration. So in other words, they are setting up Donald Trump to fail. Whether you like him or not, that's the way this comes across to me, because he knows all of those things aren't going to be. Do you guys think they're going to establish a Palestinian state that quickly? Do you even think they're going to establish a Palestinian state? Like, just think about these things. So this is a setup. Walking right into it. One of the things that he mentioned was that Israel has to recognize Palestinians as people, which goes to show you once again, he knew all along that Israel was, demeaning the Palestinians and that they did not see them as a people. And yet the entire time that this has been going on since after October 7th, he never mentioned it, not once. But now that he's on his way out, now he's going to mention it. And these are the things you need to pay attention to.
Accepting a time-bound conditions-based approach for Palestinian statehood will provide the political horizon that regional and international actors need to contribute the security forces and financial support necessary to help new Palestinian leaders govern, secure, and rebuild Gaza. Some in Israel argue that accepting a political horizon for the Palestinians would reward Hamas for October 7th. In fact, Hamas has tried to kill the idea of two states for decades. It hoped to destroy the Oslo Accords with relentless suicide bombs. It sought to strangle the Arab Peace Initiative by launching the horrific Passover attacks. Far from rewarding Hamas, accepting a political horizon would be the ultimate rebuke to its nihilistic agenda of death and destruction. We sincerely hope the parties will be prepared to make tough choices going forward. And yet, the unimpeachable reality is that up to this point, they've either failed to make these difficult decisions or acted in ways that put a deal and long-term peace further from reach. Israel's government has systematically undermined the capacity and legitimacy of the only viable alternative to Hamas, the Palestinian Authority. Consider funding. Israel continues to hold back PA tax revenues that it collects on behalf of the Palestinians, funds that belong to the Palestinians and that the PA needs to pay people who provide essential services like healthcare and security in the West Bank, which is vital to Israel's own security. Just this week, U.S. engagement led Israel to agree to unlock hundreds of millions of dollars in PA tax revenues, a welcome step. But these funds never should have been withheld in the first place. And Israel continues to hold more than $500 million in tax revenues.
So now all of a sudden, you can talk about how Israel is withholding the money. But the entire time during this administration, you couldn't call these things out. This is politics, folks. And he has been smiling in your face. Now, the first person we're going to go to that calls this out is Owen Jones. Owen Jones, UK reporter, writes for The Guardian. He said some things about this as well. Listen to this.
Israel has lost in Gaza. That is according to the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who has played a pivotal role in facilitating one of the worst crimes of our age. Now, he hasn't said in those words, Israel has lost in Gaza, but what he has said means the same thing. Let's just have a listen, shall we?
Avoid. Indeed, we assess that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost. That is a recipe for an enduring insurgency and perpetual war.
And this is exactly what we warned would happen. If you continue to oppress and occupy these people, Hamas is going to grow. We said, like, obviously, you're going to when you're the people who are there in Gaza, and not everybody, but if you're sitting there and you've watched your brother, your sister, your babies like get killed because they were shot, they were bombed, or because they starved to death. I saw a baby that froze to death because the temperatures were dropping. Like, that does something to you. And so if you're in that situation and you see, you know what, they're going to kill us no matter what. They're going to starve us no matter what. I would say that Israel has been implementing a slow death among the Palestinian people prior to October 7th, because they've done it in other ways. When the majority of the water is dirty water, that can lead to disease, illness, that can cause your death. When they only allow certain foods to come in, when they occupy them and cage them in like animals, when they refuse to allow Palestinians to leave Gaza and go to Israel to get cancer treatment, they have been slowly killing the Palestinian people prior to October 7th. And after October 7th, they continue to basically ramp it up. So if you're Palestinian and you live in Gaza and you've seen this for years, and then you watch your people starve right in front of you and you're lucky to be alive, what do you think that does to a person? What do you think that makes that person? How do you think it makes them feel? When you know that the people who are occupying you are going to try to kill you anyway, you think you have nothing to lose and you might as well join the resistance. That's how you got Hamas. So when people ask, what should Israel have done? They should have ended the occupation. That's what they should have done. Occupied people have a right to resist. And it's easy to sit up here and point fingers and say, oh, well, they shouldn't have done this, and that. You don't know what should have happened. If you've never been occupied, if someone came to your house today and told you that you couldn't leave your town, put a fence around your town and said, you can't leave. Oh, and by the way, you don't get to pick what you want to eat. We're going to control what comes into this town and what doesn't. You can't leave these gates. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to see a specialist. You need to have surgery. We get to decide whether or not you get to leave the gates to go to the hospital to have surgery. What do you expect the people to do? And this is why when people like Piers Morgan say, but do you condemn Hamas? I'm like, do you condemn occupation? That's what people should be asking. So he is admitting that Israel has lost, which is exactly what we predicted would happen if this were to continue.
The longer the war goes on, the worse the humanitarian situation gets in Gaza.
Okay, let's just take stock. It is, as I speak, the 15th of January 2024. Israel's genocidal onslaught against Gaza began 466 days ago. Gaza is a tiny strip of land no bigger than East London. It is 360 square kilometres and about 25 miles long. Israel has one of the most sophisticated militaries on the face of the earth. It is armed to the teeth and aided in multiple ways by the United States, the last superpower on earth. It has spent 466 days razing Gaza from the face of the earth, exterminating tens of thousands of people, mostly women, children and the elderly, whilst engaging in multiple war crimes such as deliberate starvation, the destruction of the healthcare system, mass enforced disappearance, rape, torture, you name it. Israel stated it had two war aims at the beginning of this genocidal frenzy. That was to bring home the Israeli hostages captured on the 7th of October 2023 by military means, but the absolute overriding key aim that was articulated in public over and over again was to completely eliminate Hamas. On the first count, that's clearly a total failure. The Israeli state has killed far more of its own hostages than it has rescued by military means, with the only mass hostage rescue taking place because of a previous ceasefire and an exchange of detainees, and that includes so many Palestinians who are de facto hostages, who were in many cases detained at length without any charge, indeed victims of enforced disappearance, a crime against humanity, subjected to hideous torture and indeed sexual violence, and that includes children, as per, for example, the testimonies of Save the Children. Now, Antony Blinken has just said that Israel has not only failed to defeat Hamas, but after 466 days of utter carnage and death, he has said that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost. So he just casually says that Hamas's armed wing is essentially no smaller than it was when Israel's genocide began.
Which means that Israel killed, the majority of people that Israel killed were civilians, which we continued to say. All those bombs and the starvation, not allowing the food to come in for the civilians to eat for 15 months. And not only did they not defeat Hamas, they didn't reduce it either. So all that money and all that stuff that went to Israel from the United States, wasted. Billions of dollars that went to Israel from the United States was a waste. This was never about getting the hostages back. This was never about defeating Hamas. This was about exterminating an entire race of people. They give themselves away when they say, we know they're in the tunnels, but you're not going in any tunnels. That's why they were bombing the hospitals, so that the people couldn't get help. That's why they were bombing the schools, so the kids would not have education, nothing to go back to. That's why they were killing the journalists, so they couldn't get the story out. If it was really about those hostages, they would have agreed to a ceasefire earlier on, and the people would have been home by now.
Key driving rationale to justify so much slaughter, so much suffering, so much horror, that key driving rationale is a total failure, according to the government, which more than anyone else facilitated this crime. Well, let's go back to what President Joe Biden, Blinken's boss, of course, said in October 2023.
Do you believe that Hamas must be eliminated entirely?
Yes, I do.
Biden was asked, does he think Hamas must be eliminated entirely? And he said, yes, I do. So let's be clear. That was official US policy. They facilitated the mass slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza on the grounds Hamas must be eliminated entirely. And now, after giving Israel $22 billion worth of weapons since October 2023 alone, which have been used to incinerate, slowly cook and suffocate under rubble thousands of Palestinians, including children, including toddlers, including newborn babies, the US just casually comes out and says the so-called key war aim is a total indisputable failure.
Which just reaffirms that it's been a genocide. When the US government, when they were looking for Osama bin Laden, they went right into the tunnels to find him, right? And for the longest time, they said they didn't know where he was. They couldn't find him. But Israel's been telling you all this time that Hamas is in the tunnels. But they weren't going to go into the tunnels because it was never about that. So Owen, you can watch the rest of that video on your own, but Owen had quite a few things to say. And then there was another protester that stood up to Antony Blinken here as well. And then you're also going to see Max Blumenthal and Sam Husseini stand up to Blinken also.
Since October 7th. Since October.
He's a monster, and they're correct. And everybody's coming after him because what this speech from Antony Blinken reveals is that Israel did not accomplish their mission. They did not defeat Hamas. They did not contain Hamas. They have not won. And the US government knew that Israel wasn't winning, just like they know Ukraine is not going to beat Russia, boo. And they're continuing to give the money to those countries, knowing it is a failed mission. Meanwhile, more people die. So the blood is on their hands. The blood is on Antony Blinken's hands. They knew all along and they went along with it anyway. And had it not been for the protests, they never would have even said anything to you about a ceasefire. Are you kidding me? Had the world remained silent, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Antony Blinken, they would have said nothing to you about no damn ceasefire. Because at the end of the day, it took more than the Palestinian Americans, the Arab Americans, the Muslim Americans. It took more than them just standing up. It took the entire world. The entire world had to turn on Israel. People had to call Joe Biden Genocide Joe to his face. People had to call Kamala Harris Killer Kamala to her face. We had to call this nut Bloody Blinken to his face over and over and over and over and over again. And people rose up across the world before they would even mention the word ceasefire. These people are complicit. They don't give a damn about the Palestinian people. We had to embarrass them on the world stage for them to even utter the words. Let's move towards a different position. Let's try to get a ceasefire. Let's try to get a deal on the table. I'm here to tell you that had those protests not happened, had there not been a massive outcry, I am here to tell you they would have never uttered those words ceasefire. And we would have been looking at another goddamn Afghanistan. All they know is death and destruction. All they know is war. They take and they kill, and that's who they are. And when people say this is not who we are as a country, no, fuck that. That's exactly who we are. Maybe not as individuals, but that is exactly what this country has done time and time again. They did it to Afghanistan. They did it to Yemen. They did it to Haiti. All we do is destroy other countries and take their shit. Now, luckily, there are some journalists who were there and said, we have some things to say to your face. And one of them was Sam Husseini. He was forcibly removed from the briefing room after interrupting Blinken's final press conference. Look at how they drag Sam out of the press conference.
2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Oh, respect the process. Respect the process. Well, everybody from Amnesty International, to the ICJ is saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't 2 or 3 people?
So, first of all, why do they need 3 people to remove him? Second of all, why are they trying to remove him? Because he asked a question. So Ryan Grimm was there in that room. A couple of people, Ryan Grimm was there, Sam Husseini was there, and Max Blumenthal was also in that press conference. So they're all kind of sitting near each other. And from what I understand, Sam has been in these press conferences many times before. He has asked questions, whether it's for Matt Miller or Antony Blinken. So it's not like this was his first time going to a press conference. From what I understand, he asked a simple question about the war. I forget the exact question, but Blinken sends his buds to come drag him out the room. Is this called for?
You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ?
Is this necessary? Ladies and gentlemen, is this necessary? Why is this being done? This is what they're doing to journalists who have a right to be there. You can't just walk into the room. Okay. So who have a right to be there? This is what they do. They just pull you out. You see this? How dare you ask a question that I don't like? Get them out of here. Get them out of here. Shame on these people. Shame.
Orders, you block the ICJ orders. You
Please, sir, respect the process.
respect the process. Respect the process while everybody from Amnesty International.
We'll pause here. What kills me is all the other journalists who are sitting in the room that don't have his back. Because here's the thing. They can't throw all of them out. Why didn't everybody else stand up in unity with Sam and say, no, this is wrong, whether you're friends with Sam or not? Because what they're doing to Sam, they can do to you too. This is the threat against all journalism, whether you're on their side or not. Do we have free speech in this country or not? So you ask a question they don't like and they drag you out of the room.
From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague?
Yes. Why isn't he in The Hague? Because he should be there. Antony Blinken should be there, but he's too busy just smiling in everyone's face. Poor Sam. Sam's been on the show before. That is absolutely ridiculous. Freedom of speech, right? He's not the only one. Max Blumenthal was also kicked out. We're going to get to that one next. Oh, let me get to CNN first. So his appearance was on CNN. Sam actually made it to CNN, but I don't know if he knows it or not. He probably does now. His appearance was on CNN, and let me show you what they said about him on CNN. Okay. This is why your network ratings are in the trash.
As you heard, he was repeatedly interrupted by some cringeworthy heckling by activists. I mean, we were both sitting here pretty stunned, frankly. This is supposed to be a press conference with a room of journalists. Those were activists who were interrupting the Secretary of State when he initially was thanking the press and talking about the Israeli-Hamas deal.
Yeah.
So first of all, I don't know who this woman here is in the pink, but you need to get your facts straight. Number one, you can be both. You can be an activist and a journalist. Sam Husseini is a journalist. Max Blumenthal is a journalist. So notice how they frame it. These are activists who showed up at this press conference that's really only supposed to be journalists in there. And I can't believe they let activists just go in there and ask questions. So you see what they're trying to do now? You see how they're trying to change the framing to convince you that they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. She referred to them as hecklers and did not refer to them as journalists. This is intentional. So again, I don't know who the hell this woman is. But this is why your ratings are in the toilet. This is why CNN, this is why you are losing viewers, because you can't tell the truth if it saves your damn life. How is it that you all know, I know, all of you in the chat know these guys are journalists. So how is it that CNN doesn't know? You think that's the first time that they've seen Sam Husseini? It's not. You think it's the first time they've ever seen Max Blumenthal? It's not. So let's get back to Pinky.
I think it's really surprising. A lot of our viewers will have seen protests on Capitol Hill, for example, during confirmation hearings, but it's very rare for something like that to happen at the State Department. I'm over there all the time in that briefing room, and you need to have a reason to be at the State Department. You need to have an appointment. You need to have press accreditation to come and go. So it's unclear who those people were. So I think it's unclear
who those people were, but you already said that they were activists. You don't know who they are, but you already gave them a label. Everybody following this? State Department Propaganda Network.
There's a real security question there. Allow me to be cheesy for a moment. This is a testament to American democracy and the way that American administrations approach their press rooms. They give accreditation to a wide number of journalists and increasingly what I would call less mainstream journalists, more opinion journalists, who have the opportunity to go to the State Department, to go to the White House and to ask.
Pause. Now he's saying, oh, well, they let opinion journalists come in as well. Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal are investigative journalists. They've been able to get things right that you guys still can't get right till today, or excuse me, refuse to get right till today. Max Blumenthal was right about Russia and Ukraine. You guys were wrong. Max Blumenthal was right about Israel and Gaza. So was Sam Husseini. You guys were wrong. These are people who are getting the facts right while you guys are continuing to lie and gaslight the public. So opinion journalists don't travel to different countries to get the story. These guys have traveled. They've been abroad. They go to different places to get the story. While you sit there in a studio, an air-conditioned, heated studio, and say, it looks like there's some hecklers or some activists. You don't even know what you're talking about half the time. You're reading from a teleprompter. So this is his way of trying to discredit them so that people won't believe what they said.
Ask questions of the representatives of that administration. So I'm always amazed by whenever I go to these different press rooms about who's actually sitting there. It's not just Americans, it's people from all over the world, from Turkey, from China, from South Korea, who get to ask questions of people like Matt Miller at the State Department or Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House. And so there's a relatively open policy for now in these different press rooms.
So see how he brings up the foreign component to that? Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal are American. So that's their way of trying to convince the public that these two guys are just activists and probably foreign activists or whatever, and that they're not actual journalists. So that way you don't believe what they said, especially what Max Blumenthal said, because he was also dragged out of there. And I want you to hear what Max Blumenthal said about Antony Blinken, which I did not know about the family history with the Israeli lobby. And it would be different if if Antony Blinken was on the other side of this issue. But considering that he constantly advocated for Israel and defended Israel, and he comes from a family of Israeli lobbyists, that I think people should know that. So Max calls him out.
Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs flowing.
I'm happy to
Why did you
address questions on
sacrifice the
the channel.
rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism.
I look forward to taking questions when I get a chance to
Father-in-law was an
finish my
Israel
statement.
lobbyist. Your
Thank you.
grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirk through the whole thing every day. You smirk through a genocide.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt. Now,
So this
Why
part-
did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May?
So just FYI for people who may not be aware, remember when this all started, remember Max said that, him and Anya lost friends in Gaza. Because remember, they've been there before. They reported from there on the ground. And that was one of the things that they expressed. They said, we lost friends there. Our friends died. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like, to a lot of us, we see the videos and the images and we're like, oh my God, this is unbearable. This is terrible. How can anybody be okay with this? But then for like Max and Anya, like these are people they know. These are people that they, had a relationship with. So it hits even closer to home.
You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism.
I look forward to taking questions when I get a chance
Father-in-law
to
was an
finish my
Israel
statement.
lobbyist. Your
Thank you.
grandfather was an Israel lobbyist.
You hear that? Father-in-law was an Israel lobbyist. Grandfather was an Israel lobbyist. So again, to that point, if Antony Blinken was on the other side of this issue and said, you know, what Israel's doing is wrong. No, this shouldn't be happening, etc. Palestinian people need to be free. If he was on the other side of that, that would be a different situation. But because he's on the side of Israel, I think that's something people need to know. That's a conflict of interest because you have ties to the Israeli lobby. I think people need to know that. And see, that's why they had to get him out of there. They said, okay, Max, you got to go.
You compromised by Israel. Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt. You smirk through the whole thing every day. You smirk through a genocide.
Yep. Every day.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt. Now,
but, you know, shout out for it because these people need to be called out. These people, like, this is ridiculous. I do want to answer this question. Not Interested said, what is a dual citizen? It's someone that has citizenship here in the United States and another country, right? So I know people that are dual citizen, like here in the US, and they also have citizenship in Germany. So dual citizenship, which I personally don't think that if you have dual citizenship, that you should be able to serve in a political position in the United States, because again, like I said, that's a conflict of interest. Guys, this even made its way to the BBC News. It made it everywhere. I love it. Sabby, love it.
Everybody from Amnesty International, from Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that it's all doing genocide and extermination, and you're coming to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in the Hague? Why aren't you in the Hague? Why aren't you in the Hague?
So you see the look on his face, right? Smiles in your face. I don't know how people like Antony Blinken and Matt Miller go home and see their family at night. I don't know how it's incredibly disgusting, especially Matt Miller, because he's a smug son of a bitch. And well, I've been saying that a lot lately. I said that last night too. Damn. Anywho, he's very smug. These are evil people. And you got to call them what they are. These people are evil. These people are cruel. It's not, no, they're trying to work something out. Give them time. No, these people are evil. And we have to call it what it is. Psychos. So kudos to Sam, kudos to Max, kudos to Owen for calling out Antony Blinken. Enough can't be said about this. I mean, we literally had these people like Antony Blinken and Max Miller and that other guy who kind of looks like Sauger, all of them just smiling in our faces and gaslighting us and just playing in our fucking face. And it really bothers me. So they have every right to call them out in the manner that they did. It's the only way you get these things through anyway. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.